Welcome, Regis community, to our Sunday worship service. We are so happy to be joining you again. We only wish it could be in person. My name is Sister Carmela Abraze. I am joined by our worship team, which includes Sister Mary Murphy, a member of the Regis faculty, Sean Gelsteiter, our musician, Paul Leahy, the director of the campus of the Office of Ministry and Service, and Father Paul Kilroy, who will be reflecting on our readings today.
The Lord be with all of you. Our reading today is taken from the Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus told this parable to the disciples. Again, it is like a wealthy landowner who was going on a journey and called in 3 workers, entrusting some funds to them. The first was given $5,000, the second $2,000, and the third $1,000, according to each one's ability. Then the landowner went away. Immediately the worker who received the $5,000 went and invested it. He made another 5. In the same way, the worker who received the $2,000 doubled that figure. But the worker who received the $1,000 instead went off, dug a hole in the ground, and buried the money. After a long absence, the traveler returned home and settled accounts with them. The one who had received the $5,000 came forward, bringing the additional 5, saying, "You entrusted me with $5,000. Here is 5,000 more." The landowner said, "Well done. You're a good and faithful worker. Since you were dependable in a small matter, I'll put you in charge of larger affairs. Come, share my joy." The one who received the $2,000 then stepped forward with the additional 2, saying, "You entrusted me with $2,000. Here are 2,000 more." The landowner said to this one, "Cleverly done. You too are a good and faithful worker. Since you were dependable in a small matter, I'll put you in charge of larger affairs. Come, share my joy." Finally, the one who had received the $1,000 stepped forward and said to the landowner, "Knowing your ruthlessness, you who reap where you did not sow and gather where you did not scatter, and fearing your wrath, I went off and buried your $1,000. Here is your money back." The landowner exclaimed, "You worthless, lazy lout. You know that I reap where I do not sow and gather where I do not scatter, do you? All the more reason to deposit my money with the bankers, so that on my return I could have it back with interest. You there, take the 1,000 away from him and give it to the one with the 10,000. Those who have will get more until they grow rich, while those who have not will lose even the little they have. Throw this worthless one outside into the darkness, where there is the wailing and grinding of teeth." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
As I listened to that story over and over again, one phrase kept coming back to my mind, and it's this: "Ready or not, here I come. Ready or not, here I come." And I hearkened back to the many, many years ago, to my days of youth, when we used to play hide and seek. And that was the expression that the person who was it. We'd all gather together, you'd have 30 seconds to hide, and then the person would say, "Ready or not, here I come." That's the sentiment that's shared in the gospel today. Ready or not, here I come. We always need to be prepared. And what kind of a gospel is that today. It is so germane to the experiences that we have today. You know, ready or not, here I come. March 11th or 12th, we found out about this pandemic. Ready or not, here I come. Wear a mask. Keep your distance. Wash your hands. We all were called to make choices, and we all made different levels of choices, and we continue to do it that way. Ready or not, here I come. Ready or not, here God comes into each and every one of our lives, and he gives us an investment in us. He makes an investment in us and asks us to respond to God's richness in each one of our lives. And we are all put in the position of making choices. And sometimes we don't make the best choices. Sometimes we don't invest the goodness that God has given us correctly, and we lose ground. And certainly in this pandemic, you and I have been given many opportunities to make many choices about where we're going and what we're doing. We have been given an investment by our loving God, and we have been asked to use it well. So what happens to all of us in the Regis community when it comes to decisions around education? Do we use the gifts that God has given us to make those judgments and make them well so that we can move forward? Look at the challenges and choices that have come into our lives around family life since this pandemic. How are we doing with that? Do we use the energy and the strength that we have to move forward? Or do we say, I'm too tired, I'm worn out, I'm bored, I don't think I can do this anymore? You worthless, lazy lout is the way in which our God sometimes can come to us, to wake us up to see the possibilities of education. And they're going to change for us. And we have to rise to the occasion. We have to know that we have the gifts and the energy to make it happen. And oftentimes, we just want to sit down and bury the treasure and let it sit there and do its thing. And that's not the way God's gifts work in each and every one of our lives. And family life has changed so much. And the ways in which we relate to one another as friends, we can't do it the same way. Now it's getting a little chilly out. So guess what? You can't eat outside in restaurants anymore because it's too cold. What are you going to do? Starve? Of course not. We're going to find ways because we have the strength and we have the energy. We have the investment of our loving God in each and every one of us. And let's use it well. Let's use that investment to be able to have mercy on one another, to forgive one another, to be generous with who we are and what we have. We follow along in the values and gifts of our founders, the Sisters of St. Joseph, who give us many, many ways in which we should see our giftedness. But you know something? It's up to us, not just to see it, because we might bury it. It's up to us to see it, raise it to the surface, appreciate the gift that it is, and use it well. Will we make a good choice? I have a simple postscript to our reflection this week, and that is, with the busyness of our worship team, we had to pre-record this before the election.
And now let us come before our God in loving confidence, asking for those things we need for ourselves and for our world. The response to our prayer is, loving God, hear our prayer. For our church, all of us, that we may be open to God's presence in the many ways in which our God chooses to come into our lives. Loving God, hear our prayer. For all doctors, nurses, and healthcare professionals, preserving and embracing the gift of life, always prepared to serve. Loving God, hear our prayer. For veterans, as we celebrate November 11th, in thanksgiving for those who serve, and in prayer for those who have died, loving God. For all challenged by COVID-19, that they may find the health care, support of family and friends, and a healthy resolution to this disease, loving God. For our Regis community, faculty, staff, students, and alums, that we may always be open and awake to embracing God's presence in the many ways our God is part of our life, loving God. And for those needs deepest within our hearts, loving God. Loving God, thank you for your faithful presence in our lives and for always hearing our prayers. Amen. Amen. And so once again, thank you for joining us today. We hope your week ahead is filled with much peace and joy.